Hi, I'm Glenn Whipp with the Los Angeles Times. Joining us today, two-time Emmy nominee from the Emmy-nominated ABC comedy Blackish, Anthony Anderson.
Thank you very much, Glenn. And not just two-time, but as Drake would say, back to back. Okay, just I had to throw that in.
You've maxed out. You're 2 for 2. You're batting 1,000.
2 for 2 for not coming home with the trophy.
Well, we don't know that yet.
Wait a minute. Yeah, you're right.
It's still to be decided in
Oh,
September.
Damn it! I hope I didn't jinx myself. Is this foreshadowing? I hope not. But yeah, look, it's an honor and a privilege to be nominated, and I'm happy to be amongst the group of men that I'm amongst in these categories.
You had to have a pretty good feeling. You went down to the Television Academy and did the Emmy nominations announcements. They asked you to do that.
Yes.
So if they're asking you to do that, you have to have a pretty good feeling that you're going to be having a good morning, right?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Did you look that up? Other people? I mean, if they're inviting you down, come on.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could hope,
Right.
you could want, you could all that, but like I say, stranger things have happened, and I was just honored and excited to come down and read the Emmy nominees announcements. I've grown up watching those things, hoping to have my name called one day. And it was last year, and as you could see, the excitement in which I celebrated hearing my own name, as well as the show, as well as my lovely co-star Tracy Ellis Ross's name being read. That was genuine excitement. You never know about these things, but I didn't know that it was alphabetical order. So I did not.
Yeah.
So when Anthony Anderson popped up first. That was it for me.
That's
Yeah.
Right in, yeah. Because both Blackish, B, and Anthony Anderson, I mean, that's going to come early in the thing.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you made Lauren Graham jump a couple of times, I think. It was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Your enthusiasm. And I assume you gave a shout out to your mom. I assume she was indeed watching.
She was watching.
Appreciated that.
She was watching, and she thanked me for the shout out. Her
Yeah.
quote exactly, "Baby, thank you for the shout out this morning." Okay,
Nice.
Mama.
Nice.
Yeah.
Was there, I mean, I've talked to a lot of Emmy nominees over the years, and some of them, for acting, you pick one episode as your submission episode.
Yes.
I've talked to people who said, well, the network picked it. Did you pick it yourself?
This year I did. Last
Yeah.
year I did not pick the episode. It was I didn't know what to pick, and I was just like, you know what? I put my team together. You guys know what's good and what's funny.
Right.
Do it.
It's like you needed an outside set of eyes.
Yeah,
Kinda.
yeah.
But this year, there was no doubt for you.
There was no doubt for me, and it was the Hope episode.
Yeah.
That resonated with our audience like no other episode that we shot.
Yeah.
I had previously shot over the first 2 seasons, and it was incredible because our Twitter feed went up 2,500% the night that show aired. I watched it, and in filming it, it was just something special about it. The subject matter, being a kid growing up in Compton, California, being a victim of police brutality, watching Obama become the first African American president, and all of our hope in him, and then watching him get out of the car and be like, no, get back in, Yeah. So those moments were real moments for a lot of us, and myself in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a pretty special episode, and then to see it all come together, and then for the audience who watched it, for it to resonate with them the way that it did was pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really even have to look up what episode you would submit because I was pretty sure it was going to be a Hope episode. And it was an amazing half hour of TV. Mm-hmm. It was like the 16, I think it was the 6, it came about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through this second season. Mm-hmm. How long had that episode been planned? You guys talked about that.
Not long. The episode had come about. Kenya Barris, who's my partner in this, and who actually created our show. It came to him while he was sitting. He wrote this particular episode, and it came to him while he was with his children watching the unrest in Ferguson, and his two small boys turned to him and said, "Dad, why are these people so angry?" And it forced him to have a conversation with, a 7-year-old and, maybe a 5-year-old at the time, if they were that old, about race relations, about police brutality and all that. And that got the wheels turning in his head, to write an episode. And this was even before, Blackish was even on the map, before, we had even partnered up and did this and just talking about our lives, which is what our show's really about. This is something he said, you know what, I want to talk about this. And there were a lot of issues that we wanted to deal with first season, or that we thought about dealing with first season, but we felt was low-hanging fruit. He was like, let's establish the show, let's establish these characters, and then, we'll tackle the issues that we want to tackle next season. And we did with the N-word, gun violence, police brutality, men's health, especially in the Black community. Those were things that we went after our second season.
Yeah, the show is. I mean, you're putting these topics on the table, and you're having conversations about them. I mean, you talked about Kenya having the conversation with his kids. I mean, every parent in America right now, it seems like on a weekly basis, is having a conversation with their kids.
Yes.
And trying to negotiate. Well, what do you say? What kind of tone do you strike? How real do you get?
Right.
That was all in that episode,
Yeah.
And it's taking it from both sides. Dre is more cynical about it. Bo is more hopeful about it. And you're having a conversation and airing out a lot of things. It was an amazing half hour of TV.
Thank you. And the interesting thing is, not all cultures have this conversation. My son is 16 now, and I purchased him his first car last week. And it's unfortunate that I, as a father, have to have this conversation with my son. Son, if you're ever pulled over, keep your hands on the steering wheel, keep them visible. Yes, sir. No, sir. No sudden movements. I want you to come home. That is your mission. Every time you leave this house, I want you to come home.
Yeah.
And it's almost sad to a degree that I have to have this conversation. Fathers like me have to have these conversations with their sons.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was in the episode too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
The 7 words you say to a police officer, I think, was how it's.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. It was interesting. Like the last episode of this season, it was like the Good Times episode, and there's a Norman Lear comedy from the '70s, which in spirit is a lot. Those shows like All in the Family, Maude, Good Times, Jeffersons. In spirit, very much Blackish is kind of following in that thing of talking about uncomfortable subjects, but doing it in the context of comedy.
Yeah, well, we pride ourselves on dealing with divisive topics, and hoping that we spark that conversation, hoping that people like you and I can sit across from a table with different points of views and talk about what we just saw on television, and hopefully when that conversation is over, we have a better understanding of each other's point of view. And that's what we do with our show. That has always been our intent. When Kenya and I sat down and looked at the landscape of television, we saw what was missing for us, what we wanted to see. We both are huge Norman Lear fans. These are the shows that we grew up on, and these are the shows that said something about the time in which those shows were made, and was unapologetic about it. You watch Archie Bunker, he was just in your face, and you knew where he stood. There was no questions like, I don't know. No, he was a self-proclaimed bigot. and they talked about that. And you look at Good Times, and you look at the Jeffersons, and all those shows that you named, and they spoke to the times of a cross section of people, and we pulled from that, and that's what we're doing with our show.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was just a Norman Lear documentary that was out in theaters.
Yes.
And Good Times was like a big part of it. They had John Amos on saying, I mean, he left the show, he was fired from the show. He and Esther Roll had big differences over like the content because there was so much pressure on them.
Yes.
To represent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't feel that pressure. We're not putting it on ourselves. We're just going out here and telling our stories from, from an unapologetic point of view. They are American stories. They're stories that we all go through and live. They're just being told from an African American perspective. We all want the American dream. We all want to give our children better than what we had growing up. We all want, to assimilate into society, but hold on to our culture and who we are, while that assimilation is happening and growing together. But yeah.
So you're saying you don't feel that sort of pressure as much as maybe they did in the 70s.
No, not.
Yeah.
It was a different time.
Sure.
As long as we are authentic to who we are and the stories that we're telling, and tell these stories as truthful and as comedic as we can, we're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not concerned about pressure or anything like that. No, we just want to put out the best product that we can and tell some of the best stories that we can.
Like in the Johnson family episode, you talk about that a lot, though. The image that's, the image that you feel like Dre felt like he needs to present to the world. So that was very interesting to like get into that too. I mean, he's worried about being laid off. He's put this image out there,
right?
And that there's like, he wants to. There's pressure.
Yeah, there's pressure that the character puts on himself, and that we as men, we as people put on ourselves, and and trying to keep up with the Joneses or the Johnsons, and it's like, okay, well, what do I do? I don't want them. I don't want to be seen as a failure. I don't want to fall into that stereotype as, the loud, braggadocious guy with the fly sneakers and, the Mercedes, the house that he can't maintain, just to keep up a facade. So those things hit home. Those were scary times, for Andre. It was like, well, hold on, wait a minute. That's not what this was, but this is how it can be perceived. And I mean, I think it's what we all go through, to some degree.
Yeah. Was the Good Times episode fun to shoot?
Yeah, the good-ish times. Yeah, what's funny, growing up watching Good Times, I never knew that I was watching the show in syndication. I thought, I was watching, them taping it real time. I had no idea that was made in the early 70s or when it was made. But yeah, my mother's from the South Side of Chicago. She grew up not in the Cabrini Green projects, but she grew up in the Robert Taylor homes. So the things that they were going through, my mother identified with. I identified with growing up in the Nickerson Garden projects with my mother and my grandmother in Watts, and then, being raised in Compton, and looking at John Amos, he's the quintessential black father.
Yeah.
That was my dad.
Yeah.
And so we identified with all of it. I identified with JJ because, we were both the artists in the family, and the oldest, So yeah. So to pay homage to Norman Lear and the cast of Good Times was pretty special. I created a show years ago for the WB called All About the Andersons, loosely based on my life back then as well. And there was only one name on my list to be my father, and it was John Amos. I don't care who the network wanted to see. I was like, no, my father will be John Amos. And, fortunately, I was able to get John, called him up. Actually, we shot a movie the summer before we were going into production. And I said, hey, John, I got this project that I'm doing. I created this television show. You're the only person that I want, and I want you to be my father. And I was like, I know people probably come up to you all the time and say they got something that they want you to do. And
especially the father.
Yeah,
right?
I was like, this is real, John. Yeah. And I don't think he took me seriously, until, we wrapped and we're sitting at Warner Brothers in a producer session with the heads of the studio and the network. And he comes in, and I had to pull him to the side. I was like, look, man, I told you this was real. Now go in there and get this job, and let's make some history. And that's what he did.
Yeah. I thought the Goodish Times episode was so perfect in just getting little details, right? And his character, Lawrence Fishburne doing it, it's like, he's just coming from like, how many jobs did he have? 4 jobs or something?
Yes.
And it's just weary. Because that was the character, and it was so he had to do that.
Yeah. Can you imagine having 4 jobs and still not being able to provide for your family and living in a 2-room apartment in the projects?
It's insane.
Yeah. And that was the reality for some, and still is the reality today for some. Yeah.
We're gonna see any more Dre? There weren't enough Dre's ways, as you call them, Dways.
Dways.
Yeah, we need more Dways. There was a lot of wisdom in those.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that there are going to be a lot of Dways throughout this upcoming season. Yeah, we'll go back to that. We'll call back to that.
Like the tilapia one was never order tilapia in a restaurant.
Trash fish.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
It's almost like rubber.
Right.
It's farm raised trash fish.
Yeah.
Have you ever caught a tilapia?
I've never caught a tilapia.
Neither
no.
have I.
I
go fishing.
Could not identify it.
Neither can the people who bring the tilapia to you. They can't identify with it.
So it's like a hot dog. Like it's like a fish that they assemble from a squirrel and a
red snapper, catfish, orange roughy, salmon, sea bass. I get that.
Yeah.
Tilapia. It doesn't even take on flavor.
No.
It's resistant to flavor.
You could season it all you want.
Yes.
And it's just going to taste like rubber.
Tilapia people, if there are tilapia people out there.
I don't think there are.
What? There are no tilapia people? So I'm talking to nobody right now, right?
Yeah, maybe there are. It is a fish. People order it, and you go into a supermarket.
It's there.
It's there.
So there has to be tilapia people.
Go back.
Tilapia people. All right, help us out. How do we season this rubberized fish? How does some Lawry's penetrate this rubberized skin? No matter how long you marinate it, it's not marinated.
It's not.
No.
It's impossible. So more wisdom, more Dways coming. The baby's coming too. At some point in season 3.
The baby may be. We may flip the script and we may start the season and the baby's already 6. The baby might be 6.
You're gonna jump forward in time.
We're gonna jump forward in time. Yeah, a little time travel, and not even address it. We just wake up. It's a 6-year-old walking down the steps, and it's like, "Hey, Dre the third, what's going on? Nothing, Daddy."
Basically, you're saying you don't really want to work with a baby on the show. Is kind of what I'm getting from you.
Well, babies are temperamental.
Yeah, I've heard.
They're very temperamental, and you'd be surprised at how many babies hold up contract negotiations. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Okay. You just went to, I guess it was just this past weekend, Comic-Con, right?
Yes.
Had you ever been to Comic-Con before? You went to this for a Spike special, I think that aired last night, right?
Yeah, it aired last night. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I lived it. First time at Comic-Con, had offers to come down for years and could never find the time. And I had the time this year. Spike came to me and said, "We know this is your first time at Comic-Con. Let's do a show about it." And the show was called Anthony Anderson Lost at Comic-Con. And it was filled with freaks, geeks, and weirdos. And some scents that I had never smelled before.
It gets hot down there.
It gets hot in San Diego.
People.
It's a lot of people doing cosplay, paying homage to, their favorite shows and characters. And so they're in these costumes for 3 or 4 days at a time.
Right.
And I saw some people who were paying an ode to what's the zombie show?
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead. And I swear to you, I saw this man 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row. I don't think he bathed because of the intricacies of his costume and his dental work. Like each individual tooth had artwork on it to make it look like it was just amazing. So the first day I was like, oh my God, it must take him hours to do this because, I know how long it takes us, to get costumed up with special effects.
Right.
And then I saw him the next day, and I was like, oh, this dude didn't bathe last night.
Yeah.
And he came closer to me, and I said, oh yeah, no, he didn't bathe last night.
Right.
But
he was starting to decay.
He was living. It was true to life for him.
Yeah.
But it was amazing in which the dedication that these individuals have. To 300,000 people coming through San Diego for the International Comic-Con Festival, and I was actually, I joke earlier, but I was actually blown away by all of it. And looking forward to going back there and experience it myself.
Is there anything that you kind of geeked out about yourself there?
No, just everything.
Yeah.
I mean, just the cosplay in which the dedication in which these people. I was like, how many hours did you spend putting this together? How did you come up with this? And just the dedication that they had. It was truly amazing. I went through the convention center with a mask so I could move and freely. And that was pretty interesting, just being a part of that world and a part of that culture. But nothing that I really, geeked out about.
If you were to hold your own con, what are you a nerd about? What would your con be?
What would my con be? It'd probably be food con.
Yeah.
Yeah, food con.
But no tilapia.
No tilapia.
Right.
They already have an adult film thing con, right? So that wouldn't be my own. I would like to attend that one too.
Yeah.
In a mask. Yes, in a mask. And full body latex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Spike next year they can.
Never know. Spike, you watching?
It's like this.
Us at the AVN Awards.
Right.
See what kind of cosplay they have. Woo!
I don't know where to go from there. So thank you for watching. Thank you for coming here, Anthony.
Okay,
Anderson.
thank you. My pleasure.
Congratulations on. I mean, it was a great season, and I really feel like the show came into its own this second season.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
So, best of luck for season 3. Best of luck at the Emmys, even though you kind of jinxed it already. But maybe not. Maybe you reversed it. I don't know.
Reverse it. You know what? Can we talk about the Emmys for a second? It's just a part of history. I am one of 9 actors, African American actors, who have been nominated for an Emmy since 1970.
Wow. 9 in?
9 in total. Bill Cosby, Lloyd Hayes, Sherman Hemsley, Red Fox, Robert Guillaume, Tim Reed, Bernie Mac, Don Cheadle, and myself. In 46 years, there have only been 9 African American actors nominated in the leading lead role
series.
for comedy series. Yeah. Bill Cosby being the first African American male to be nominated in the comedy series, and the first African American male to be nominated in the drama series, and the first African American male to win in the drama series. And Robert Guillaume has been the only African American actor to win lead actor in a comedy series for his work on Benson. Nominated 5 times and finally won in 1985. So to be amongst these men is pretty amazing. So I'd like to thank the viewers and the Academy for that. For putting me in such great company.
Yeah, it is. It's great company, and, and it's well deserved.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate you coming down.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.
For more of these Emmy conversations, please go to latimes.com. Thanks for watching.